Houston, we have a podcast. Welcome to the official podcast of the NASA Johnson Space Center, Episode 2, your 2017 Astronaut Class. I'm Gary Jordan, and I'll be your host today. So on this podcast, we bring in the experts, NASA scientists, engineers, astronauts, pretty much all the folks that have the coolest information, the stuff you really want to know, right on the show and talk about everything NASA. So today we're talking about the new astronaut class of 2017 with Anne Roemer. She's the manager of the Astronaut Selection Office here at the NASA Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. And we had a great discussion about the astronaut candidate class of 2017, who they are, what they bring to the table, and why these 12 people were chosen out of more than 18,000 applicants. I also had a chance to talk with them all at the same time, but I only had a few minutes, so I thought it would be fun to play two truths and a lie to get to know them a little bit better. And I'm not adding any fluff when I say that they are a truly outstanding group of people, not only with their insane qualifications and expertise, but also with their personalities. And we'll play that segment today on this episode. So with no further delay, let's go light speed and jump right ahead to our talk with Miss Anne Roemer. Enjoy.
T-minus 5 seconds and counting. Mark. Launch commit lights are correct. There she goes.
Houston, we have a podcast.
Well, now, so Anne, you're coming right out of, I guess, the frying pan, or out of the fire into the frying pan. That's how
Maybe,
it goes,
yeah.
a little bit. Last week we actually did the astronaut selection event. We had our 12 new astronauts of the class of 2017 come on, and we got to meet them all, in a sense, and the media were talking to them. So you are the person that's responsible, kind of, in a way, with your team, for selecting those 12 astronauts. So that must have been quite a process, huh?
It was a ginormous process, actually. Certainly from the beginning, we weren't anticipating that we'd have over 18,000 applications. So that was a surprise to us. And then certainly reading through all of those and at all the various checkpoints along the way to get to the event last week where we announced 12, it was an exciting week for NASA. So certainly there was a whole team of people involved in getting us from that 18,000 point down to where we were last week. But it was an honor to participate.
So what were those last couple weeks like leading up to last week, to the actual reveal? Did it get progressively more crazy as you got to that point?
Certainly. There's always a little bit of lag between when we know who we've selected and when we actually communicate with the candidates. And so that's probably one of the most interesting times because you're excited and you certainly want to share the good news. But again, when we had decided to do the live announcement, we had kind of had a timeline that we had mapped out with them. And then certainly when we added the vice presidential visit to come and help us announce that, which was just really positive for NASA.
Yeah.
But that certainly spooled up the intensity around the event that we hosted last week where we got to share with the world who we'd picked.
For sure. And are you kind of glad it's over, or is it still not over?
I'm sleeping a little bit better this week than I was last week. So yes, I'm definitely relieved and certainly happy. NASA, I think, did an amazing job of picking these 12 and right, it was an exciting moment, I think, for NASA to get to share that with everyone.
Yeah, just, we had to take them around and help them out with their portraits and stuff on the public affairs side. We had to take them around with the portraits and let them talk to media. We did it right at an AMA, so I got to talk with them just a little bit and get to know them a little bit better, and they were just a fantastic group of people. In fact, I got a less than 20 minutes with them in their jam-packed day talking to the media to get to know them a little better. So to do that, I thought it would be really fun to play two truths and a lie, the game. So they write down 3 statements, 2 of them are true, 1 of them's false, and then they just start guessing which one is the lie and get to know them a little bit better. And at that time they had been so busy that they hadn't had to get a chance to know each other, so they were taking wild guesses. But man, when I told them the game, they were like, okay, it's a little bit different from what they were normally playing, but they just went right into it. It was a great group of people. So I thought it would be really fun to start with that segment, playing Two Truths and a Lie with the 12 astronauts, and just kind of get to know them. You get to know their first names a little bit and a little bit more about them, but then we'll come back and kind of talk more about who they are and what they do. So, producer Alex, let's play the wormhole sound effect thingy. Okay, welcome to the astronaut class of 2017. It's been a crazy couple of days for you guys. What with the announcement coming here, you've had a lot of interviews so far, and we've gotten to know just a little bit about you, but I thought we'd do something a little bit more fun today by doing Two Truths and a Lie. So if you're not familiar with the game, each one of you has a piece of paper, and you've written down 2 true statements about yourself and 1 false statement. So let's see how well you know each other now and see if you can guess which thing is the lie. I think we'll start by just going in alphabetical order. It seems like this is how we did the announcement and how we've been doing most things. So, Kayla, let's start with you. Your 2 truths and a lie.
Awesome. Love going first. It's always a good thing here. So my first statement here is I've never lost a game of charades.
Lie.
My second statement is I predicted my little sister's birth. And my third statement was I was once part of a competitive wine tasting team.
I believe that.
It's out there.
Have you ever played charades?
Can't answer that.
What's the ROE on question asking? Just outright guess?
What do you mean you predicted the birth? Like,
Can't answer that
It's
either.
called
that there was going to be a baby?
That seems pretty loose. That's without definition. I think that's pretty loosely. I don't have a sister count.
I don't know, belly's awesome.
Yeah, charades.
I
She's
think
probably never played
charades, yeah.
charades.
I think that's the line, yeah. I think so. Well, she's never played
You guys got it right. I will. It was based on a truth. I've actually never lost a game of Pictionary. So if anybody's up to challenge that run, and I've played a lot of Pictionary, so. But good job, guys.
Turn off the
Not
cameras.
bad.
We're playing Pictionary.
Definitely need to know more about the competitive wine tasting. That sounds awesome.
So I went to the University of Cambridge for grad school,
Okay.
and it's an interesting place. I call it Disney World for nerds because it's just like not real life. But one of their varsity sports there is blind wine tasting, wherein you do first a white round, then a red round, where they pour you 6 glasses of wine from like wine bottles and bags, so you can't see anything about it, and then you have to identify a bunch of like nerdy characteristics, like tasting notes, how much alcohol, sugar content, acidity level, where it was grown, etc. I will say that I did not make the varsity squad due to actually drinking my wine at practice as opposed to spitting it out. So, but it was a good time for sure.
That sounds awesome. Well, okay, so next we'll move on to Zena.
Okay, let's see. First of all, I absolutely hate mushrooms. I will not eat them. I will not touch them. 2, I am really good at bowling. And 3, I'm really good at etch-a-sketching. I've never broken 100. I'm so bad.
So etch-a-sketching, what's the coolest thing you've drawn on an etch-a-sketch?
I did a portrait of Bob Dylan in high school that was really good. And then at the very end, I decided to write his name, but I forgot the L in Dylan, and I had to do it over again.
No.
Are you good at staircases?
Too bad they don't have
Yes,
autocorrect.
That's probably the best thing I can do
exactly.
for
There's
sure.
no undo button. Yeah, circles are still tricky though.
Awesome. Okay, Raja, let's move on to you.
All right, so I used to slice deli meat for a living. I met Neil Armstrong when I was 5, and my flight lead stopped me from flying into North Korea.
Deli meat.
Neil Armstrong.
Deli meat. Deli meat.
Neil Armstrong.
Only because they asked yesterday if anybody had ever met Neil Armstrong.
Okay. How fast can you slice a deli meat?
Pretty fast. My wife and I actually worked at Hy-Vee for a while, and we sliced deli meat in the deli section. She actually lost the tip of her finger on the deli slicer, so that reattached. So.
All right. Very cool, and definitely need to know the story behind almost flying into North Korea.
So there's a restricted area, and there's obviously a lot of airfields in that area. And so I was a young wingman, and we were doing practice target attacks, and we were just split from each other, and I was doing a talk on, we call it, to an airfield, and I was getting really close. I'm like, man, I can break out and counting things on the runway, and all of a sudden my flight lead realizes that is not a South Korean airfield that I'm describing. That is a North Korean airfield, and calls me south before anything worse happened. But yeah, I was, fat, dumb, and happy, like, into this scenario, like, here's, you got this, describing everything I saw on the ground, which was actually really something over there on the ground, but yeah.
Well, now you have an amazing amount of flight experience too, so I'm sure some things you're going to learn from. Awesome. Okay, so Matt, you're up.
All right, my 3 things here. I have climbed 10 14ers in Colorado. I rode on the crew team in college, and I won a gift wrapping competition during the holiday season at the Container Store.
I really hope the container thing is true. That'd be awesome.
He was on the road.
That's true.
Is it? All right.
What was the first?
Which one? He's also climbed 10.
What was the first?
He
was a rower.
The climbing
Saying more.
10, 14
What's the guess?
meters in Colorado.
Official guess.
14ers is the lie.
All right.
I've climbed 0. I've only driven up them.
I climbed one, and it's a pretty funny story.
So I'm guessing you have a record for the gift wrapping competition then, right?
No, I was
You don't
just
have a record.
holiday season, and I think in D.C. We were, with my wife at the Container Store, and they happened to have a competition for you could win a gift certificate, and I kept refusing to join, but my wife got me into it, and then I won it. We got an awesome $20 gift certificate.
I'm surprised you haven't climbed any 14ers though. That's surprising.
Yeah, no, growing up in Colorado, not having climbed a 14er is pretty unusual.
Okay, well, let's move on to Bob.
All right, here we go. I reordered these, so your philosophy on which one's the lie doesn't apply. That's right. So, I met my wife in grad school. I went to college on a track scholarship, and I got hit by a truck while flying an airplane.
Wife and grad
Yeah, wife in grad school. Didn't meet her there.
You got to tell the truck story, man.
It always is. So I was flying a little Cessna 152, tiny little airfield, uncontrolled airfield up in Pennsylvania, and there's a road literally about 10 feet from the end of the runway. They have these little flashing lights that say yield to low flying aircraft. And I'm sitting on the left side of the airplane where you sit when you're by yourself. And I'm coming down final approach, and next thing I know, I hear this thump, and I'm looking out the side of the airplane at the runway. I go around, and I'm trying to figure out what just happened. I look over my shoulder, I see a black disc bounce and hit a building. I look out, and there's no wheel on the left side. And so after a little troubleshooting and talking to the guys on the ground at the FBO, they all come out, standing by the runway. I fly by, and they're like, okay, you have just a strut on your left side and nothing on the right side. Still have no idea what happened at this point. I just know all that stuff flew off the airplane at some point. Anyway, we landed on the runway. I mean, it's a Cessna, so you land at 45 knots, something like that. So touchdown, it spins around in the airplane. We all get out, and we're standing around like a bunch of hillbillies, kind of, oh, man, that was cool. And this tractor trailer comes driving down, pulls over the 10 feet of grass, drives up the runway, and he goes, "You hit my truck." And he lifts up the back, and we look in, it's an empty trailer, and you can see skidded right across the top, one of the spars that holds the skin on the top of the truck. I skidded right across it.
Wow. So it was a lie then, because you hit the truck.
Not true. That was for insurance purposes. So the truth was twisted.
This is on TV.
So they now have a displaced threshold down there at that airport, 300 feet down, so that there's no hazards on the thing. So that's all due to me.
You got an amazing
or the truck
story,
driver, actually. It's all due to me. So it was funny, though. He's calling his insurance company, and they go, okay, we had an accident. And they said, okay, what's the vehicle type? And he's like, looks at me, and I'm like, Cessna 152. They're like, we don't have that in our database.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's move on to Woody.
All right. So in keeping with Matt's theme, I've climbed one of the 7 summits. I built model rockets in high school, and I can do a standing front flip.
You're too tall for a front flip. Your rotational inertia is too big. No chance.
I think I've seen him do it.
You had to have built up the rockets.
He was known for rocket making as a kid. So.
Back to front flips.
Among circles of rocket makers. Actually, BK said something about him making rockets.
The summit?
Yeah.
Summit.
I think it's the front.
It's the front flip.
Oh.
Can't do a front flip.
Physics.
I was going to say, if that wasn't truth, we would definitely have a demonstrator.
Rotational inertia.
Too tall.
Can you do a backflip?
I cannot.
Oh.
Not even off the diving board?
Never tried. It just seems really scary.
So which summit did you climb?
I did Denali.
All right, very
Oh,
cool.
very nice.
Very cool. Okay, Johnny, you're up.
So, number 1, I wrote, enlisting in the Navy was the best decision of my life. Number 2, I got in trouble overseas after being on the phone next to a generator after a mortar attack and not being there for the head count. And I am a hot dog eating champion of my local high school.
Kobayashi.
Hot dogs.
Joining the Navy.
I think the first one, yeah. I think the marriage is the first one.
Yeah, that sounds like a trick.
I think you're tricking us out.
Damn it, we just put him in a bad spot.
We'll let you get a pass on that.
Tell the truth, Johnny. Tell the truth. Which was the lie?
Hot dogs.
Hot dogs.
Is that the hot dogs? Yeah, that was the lie. I am now in trouble.
It's a sad puppy face. You figured me out.
Oh.
Love it.
So what, that generator story,
I definitely got in trouble with my platoon for, where's Johnny? And I was outside on the phone. So.
Oh, man. Okay, well, glad you're okay. All right, Rob, you're up.
All right, so inspected a rocket booster while it had liquid oxygen on board. Skied off the summit of Denali wearing a Superman cape. Or went rock climbing with a broken ankle while wearing an astronaut helmet.
Ooh.
What was the second one?
Skied off the summit of Denali wearing a Superman cape.
I'll go with that one. Yeah, I'll go with that one.
You guys are too easy.
So what kind of cape was it?
That was the lie.
What was the last one again?
Went rock climbing with a broken ankle while wearing an astronaut helmet.
Why?
I didn't realize it was broken. It just kept giving out on me.
No, why?
We're safe. No, we one of those padded astronaut helmets like you see in the costume store. And my buddies and I, we always like when we go climbing, having some sort of gag with the affair, whether it be some sort of silly costume, I guess. And that day it was the astronaut helmet. So.
Unbelievable. Okay, that was awesome. Jasmine, you're up.
All right. I'm an aunt to an incredibly cute and well-mannered 4-year-old little girl. In college, I was a member of the varsity basketball, lacrosse, volleyball, and cross-country teams. And I was pushed down a flight of stairs by my brother when I was 2.
You don't seem like you'd be well behaved.
I think it's something in the second one. I think
one of those
is fake in the list.
No, it's too many. That would be weird.
Maybe she's add an extra one in.
Yeah,
or maybe her niece is not well behaved.
Oh, you or your niece?
I think she really did all this for us.
Was it you that's well behaved at 4? Or?
No.
I didn't do that many sports in 3 seasons.
Yeah, you can't.
Oh, you can do
But
it.
there's many
My
years in
niece.
high school.
Oh, okay.
All right.
That was you.
We're going to be quite a sport.
My 4-year-old.
Yeah, sports. Let's go with sports.
Once she gets that varsity letter, she just moves on to the next sport.
I'm gonna go with stairs. I think she pushed her brother down the stairs.
The werewolf skills coming out.
So which one is it?
All right. I don't have a 4-year-old niece.
Anymore.
That was so descriptive.
I pushed her down the stairs.
So how did you make time for all the sports?
So I played volleyball my freshman year, volleyball and lacrosse my freshman year, cross country. basketball and lacrosse my sophomore year, and then basketball and lacrosse my junior and senior year.
Wow. Very impressive.
That's
I
awesome.
believed all along, Josh.
Okay, so we have about 2 more minutes, so let's go on to Laurel.
Other way.
Okay.
All right, so I eat tacos at least half the days of the week.
Respect.
In middle school, I used to get in trouble for talking out loud in class all the time, and I once won a no-shower marathon.
Middle school.
Middle school.
Does that mean 4 days a week or 3 days a week? Or 3.5? Like, how does this work?
3 or 4 days.
It's a technicality.
Yeah, technicality.
Well, welcome back to Houston. This is you got their pick of really no shower contest.
Yeah, so I rode on the crew team, and
okay.
my freshman year, the women's team decided to do a no-shower marathon. So starting, it was like the end of October, we just stopped showering. So we were going to practice like once or twice a day and going to class and everything. And
classmates.
yeah, it was pretty rough by the end of it. We actually called it. There were 2 of us still left. So I'm a co-champion. But
How many days did you make it?
it's like 21 days.
Wow. All right, well, you'll be well prepared for space because they actually do the wet wipe showers when you're in there, so you'll be ready.
Yeah, no wet wipes.
Okay, so Frank. No wet wipes.
All right. So I started dating my wife in high school. I've flown a handmade Russian aircraft while deployed, and I once owned 4 ducks, a rabbit, and 6 guinea pigs at the same time.
What was the second one?
I once flew a handmade Russian aircraft while deployed.
Is it a helo?
Yeah,
It's an aircraft.
Animals.
No, I think the animals are true.
I know the ducks are true.
Yeah, I think the animals are true.
Or the wife.
What was the wife?
I started dating my wife in high school.
They started dating. Met in high school. Yeah.
I believe that one.
We'll go with the animals. I'll go with the animals.
Sitting next to Tina, I'll go with the
Yeah, no, it was a Hungarian aircraft. So.
technicality.
Like how we always believe.
That's a lot of
Most
animals,
extreme.
right?
Yeah, so we had 3 guinea pigs, 3 female guinea pigs. Somehow one of them got pregnant and had babies, and so afterwards we had 6 guinea pigs. Little sneaky guy.
Okay, Jessica, you're last.
So, my guilty pleasure is watching American Ninja Warrior. I eat extremely slowly, and I won an Olympic medal.
I think the Olympic medal would have been in your bio.
It's the first one's a lie.
Olympic medal in what?
I think it's the Ninja Warrior.
Ninja Warrior's
awesome. I did not like that. I think she did win a medal. I think she won a medal. I think she did too. I think it's the first one to lie. What was the first one?
I watch American Ninja Warrior.
You're a fast eater. You said the second one's
No, she's
slow.
she is a slow eater. She's taken to-go boxes everywhere we've gone.
All right.
So medal or Ninja Warrior?
I think it's the Ninja Warrior.
That's not
The lies that I won an Olympic medal, but I appreciate that you guys
Took your
This is
time,
awesome.
yeah.
I'm like, it would have been
But you did win a couple of rugby championships, right?
Yes.
Yeah, very cool. Okay. All right, guys, thanks so much for taking the time to play this game, get to know you a little bit better. For our viewers and listeners, if you want to know the real biographies of these guys, the real long, informative ones, just go to nasa.gov/2017 astronauts. We have the bios of each one of these guys up here, and you can learn more about them. So, guys, it's been a pleasure talking with you today, and best of luck on your transition to moving to Houston and to start training. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
So playing that game, we got to know like a little bit more of a personal side to them and a little bit of the stories. Just they've obviously had a ton of experiences, both personal and professional, all over the place. But really, I mean, you had, like you said, over 18,000 applications, and you had to narrow it down to 12. So these people are some of the best, the brightest minds in the United States right now. So I just thought we'd go through them and talk more maybe about their qualifications. Starting, like I said in the Two Truths and a Lie game alphabetically. I thought, we announce them alphabetically. Let's play the game alphabetically and then go through them alphabetically. Sure. So Kayla, Lieutenant, U.S. Navy, and she was she was in the submarine. Is that right?
Sure. Yes,
Yeah.
and she was one of the first women commissioned into the submarine force.
Incredible.
So previously, only men had been accepted into that unit within the Navy. So she was in the first class of women to be integrated into the submarine force.
That's incredible, and her leadership skills probably showed that, right? Just I guess she presented herself in a great way during those interviews.
Absolutely, and really they all did, right? But to add that extra experience of living and working and leading on a submarine, there are a lot of direct parallels that I think apply to living and working in space in another extreme environment.
Yeah, exactly. You're in enclosed space. You have only metal around you to look at, pretty much. And it's hazardous, and you have to work with the people that you're in this tight space with.
Yep.
I think one of the questions we asked them when we interviewed them on Skype was, what makes you a good person to be trapped in an enclosed space with? And a lot of them said, I pack light, or they said I don't take up a lot of space, or I'm a quiet sleeper, stuff like that. So they were, it was fun. So Zena, close to my heart, being a Penn Stater, but she's got quite a resume, going for her PhD of geoscience at Penn State University and a couple Antarctic expeditions.
Yeah, she had some field experience in Antarctica. Zena is, as you probably noticed if you watched any of the coverage from last week, probably never goes anywhere without a smile on her face. It was probably one of the best phone calls that we have made, because you could tell she was just so happy and so overwhelmed and just so moved. So
yeah, I think personality's got to be one of a driving factor to be an astronaut, right? Because referring back to that statement, you have to be in an enclosed environment with people for long periods of time. You have to make sure you have a good personality and that you're going to get along.
Sure, we're looking for a variety of skill sets, but certainly one of the questions that always comes up is right, every person has quirks to their personality, but can you modulate as you need to in those environments?
So and another part, I guess, is just the diversity of the candidates. We talked about Kayla Barron from the U.S. Navy, worked in a submarine. Zena Cartman, more of a scientist. Raja Chari is a pilot, a U.S. pilot. He was part of the U.S. Navy test pilot school and was flying F-35s. Is that the one? I can't remember. Is that the one that has the vertical takeoff and landing one?
That's the new, and this is out of my area of expertise, right? But the new aircraft that's coming online for all of the service branches, and I think each service branch has some modifications to suit their various platforms. But certainly one of the newest and probably most cutting edge pieces of technology coming into the military, and he's been responsible for leading a significant portion of the testing efforts around that in relation to the U.S. Air Force.
So he'll be good with kind of familiarizing himself with brand new spacecraft and figuring stuff out, learning the quirks. I know coming up here, we got some new spacecraft that the astronauts are going to fly, right? We got the SpaceX Crew Dragon and the Boeing Starliner. They're actually going to be flying these brand new vehicles on top of other things. You got the Orion capsule too. So he's going to be very good, probably at a good person to pilot that. He also has a master's degree from MIT in aeronautics and astronautics, so he's very familiar with the skies and beyond, I guess.
Yep, we hope so.
Okay, so Matt Dominic, Lieutenant Commander in the U.S. Navy, also some engineering experience, and a pilot serving an FA-18E Pilot Strike Fighter Squadron, 1,600 hours of flight time over several combat missions. We got quite a few pilots, I guess. I think I forget the number.
Three. We hired 3 pilots in this class.
Okay.
So yeah, Matt certainly, I think will add a lot to this class as well. One of the things that probably isn't on his resume, but that we had the pleasure of learning about through the interview process, is also a really great cook. So I'm sure that will enhance the experience for his classmates.
For sure. Have you seen some of the things that Jack Fisher is making on board too? he takes pictures of them. He makes like crazy burritos and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so Matt should be well prepared for that.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
And certainly, right, we were fortunate to have him here last week for the event. When we notified him, he was actually on board an aircraft carrier on deployment. And so it was questionable for a time as to whether he could get off the carrier to be here in Houston to meet the rest of his classmates. So again, very, very lucky that we had the support of the Navy to help us get him here in person.
Absolutely. I remember, so we were going through the Skype interviews right after they got selected. We wanted to interview them and get a couple words from them before they came on because we knew, their schedules were just going to be so hectic. We wanted to make sure we could ask them plenty of questions in a reasonable amount of time. And he actually had to cancel the interview that I was going to do with him because he had a mission. And so we rescheduled, and I think Dan was the one who ended up interviewing him. But it was really, like you said, it was really nice that he was able to accommodate his schedule for us. Another person, Bob Hines, I guess very special to us because he's from the Johnson Space Center, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people here knew him and were, wide-eyed, I guess, when he went on the stage. Oh my gosh, there's Bob. That's cool.
He was our second pilot that we picked out of the group, and is what we would call a local, in that he already lived here and was part of the NASA family. So certainly excited to make that transition from being an instructor pilot out at Ellington Field into the astronaut corps.
Absolutely. And he's going to be, like you said, we have these pilots here because they're the ones that will be flying the new vehicles, and it's very exciting. So Woody Hoberg is from actually Pennsylvania. Actually talking with him, he went to a high school that competed with my high school. Also, actually, Bob Hines went to that same high school.
Yeah,
they both went to North Allegheny.
And that out of 18,000, that's kind of a small world fact right there.
Two of them from the same high school is crazy.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is pretty awesome. Undergraduate degree in aeronautical and astronautical engineering from MIT, PhD in electrical and computer science from University of California, Berkeley, and he's an assistant professor at MIT. Very smart man.
Very smart indeed. And again, right, having that academic perspective, I think it lends him to have kept up with kind of some of the cutting edge trends in engineering in terms of, right, one of his main roles at MIT is to mentor a group of students working in a lab. So I think he comes with some very sharp and hands-on engineering skills.
Exactly, and very diverse too. Aeronautical, astronautical, electrical, and computer science.
Yeah,
so
pretty much covers it all, right? I mean,
he'll be able to do it all. All right, this next guy, Johnny Kim, super cool. Enlisted in the U.S. Navy as a Navy SEAL, over 100 combat missions, earned the Silver Star and Bronze Star. Also graduated with a degree in math from University of San Diego and got his MD at Harvard Medical School. So he's a doctor and a Navy SEAL. Crazy.
Yeah, he is, a great patriot, and right, his time in the Navy was recognized with a Silver Star as well as a Bronze Star with Valor. So certainly an American hero.
Truly amazing. And the fact that these, as we're going through, I'm realizing everyone's got, they don't just do one thing. They do many, many different things. I think coming up here, I guess I'll skip around, but I know Laurel. She got a degree in aerospace engineering from University of Kansas, master's degree in propulsion and fluid dynamics from Purdue. But then she works at the Oceanographic Institute over, I think, in Massachusetts. But she also did the NASA flight program when she was a student and worked as an intern at JPL.
Yeah, I think, honestly, with candidates through this selection cycle and others, it's an interesting tidbit to note how many of them participated in some type of NASA educational program along the way. We hear a lot of that throughout the interviews, whether that's a NASA internship or a NASA cooperative education position, or the reduced gravity opportunity. Sometimes it's some of the graduate research fellowships that NASA sponsors. That, for me, is interesting to hear how those experiences early on in a person's life and career trajectory can have a big impact on them, and that they come back and pursue careers that kind of align with someday working at NASA, and then ultimately we have a number of them that got picked for the astronaut corps.
Yeah, and Dr. Jessica Watkins is also one of those people, right?
Yeah.
PhD in it says geology here, but I know talking with her planetary geology at UCLA, she's kind of an expert in Mars. She actually worked, her work experience includes time at JPL and Ames. She was working on, I want to say Curiosity, was she?
Yep,
yeah,
Curiosity.
It was Curiosity. How about that?
Yeah, that's another good example, right? To have that experience on the research and the robotic side of NASA's missions, and then bring that into the human spaceflight element. Certainly that's helpful because those two go hand in hand as far as NASA reaching farther and farther out into the solar system.
Absolutely. And, we got folks that worked at NASA and have various experiences there, including Jessica Watkins and Laurel O'Hara. But we also have Rob Coolin, who's from SpaceX, actually, and a huge fan of the cold. He is from Alaska, and he went to, I think, University of Denver to get his master's and PhD in material science and engineering. He got a PhD in material science and engineering from University of California, San Diego, so a little bit warmer there. But he was an ice driller in Antarctica, so the man loves the cold. But he works for SpaceX too.
Yeah, and he's been working and directly responsible for multiple parts, right, that are on the SpaceX vehicle. And who knows? There's a chance that he could fly on the SpaceX.
Yeah, I'm sure he's rooting for that for sure.
So yeah, I think that'll be, again, I think when you look at the important role that the astronauts play with the development of any new vehicle, whether that's NASA's Orion or the commercial vehicles, certainly having Rob's expertise, having been so hands-on with SpaceX, I'm sure that will be very valuable to the office.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And just talking with him, he was laughing extra hard, I think, during that whole thing. And like I said, he had one of my favorite tooth truths and a lie was with that crazy cape story, or the astronaut helmet broken leg story. Insane. He was very, very nice man. Next person, Jasmine Mogbelli. Marine Corps. She was born in Germany, considers New York her home. Graduated MIT with a degree in aerospace engineering, information technology, and I think she was also, serving as an H-1 test pilot, quality assurance at the avionics center. Is she also a pilot? Yeah, there you go, 1,600 hours.
Yeah, she's a helicopter pilot.
Helicopter, very cool.
So she's our only helicopter pilot in the group this time, and has had a wide range of experience. You highlighted MIT, and I think we have a number of candidates that have either worked at MIT or degrees from MIT.
Right. So super smart, and they all have. I mean, going back to this, not only is she a test pilot and is flying helicopters, but she also has advanced degrees in engineering, and she naval postgraduate school. Amazing.
Yep.
So Dr. Francisco Rubio, just call him Frank Rubio. Let's see, undergraduate degree in international relations from United States Military Academy, doctorate in medicine from Uniformed Services University of Health Sciences. But he's also a battalion surgeon in 3rd Battalion, 10th Special Forces Group Airborne with the U.S. Army. And he also has some flight time, 1,100 hours in a helicopter, and some skydiving experience as well. So, like I said, this do it all. So he's a second doctor, right, along with Johnny Kim.
Yes, and again, if you look at Frank's block of experience, he brings a lot of different things to the table. Certainly the helicopter experience, I believe it's over 600 parachute jumps. That's a lot, at least for me, who's done 0.
I did 1, and I was very, very scared the whole time.
Yeah, no, I will stay with my 0 number. And then obviously, the time practicing as a medical doctor with the Army. So, we ended up with 12 people that brought not just one thing to the table, but they all brought a bunch of unique things.
Exactly. But so tell me how the interview process works. So you obviously selected 12 people, but it had to get weaned down from there, right? Isn't it? The first round of interviews is a couple hundred, and it's calls, right? Is that how it goes?
No. So we actually we whittle down the applications by first weeding out the people that apply who are not qualified.
So that's the easy part, right?
Yeah,
in a sense.
Yeah, in a sense. Interestingly enough, over time, we have almost always consistently had about the same percentage of people who apply who aren't qualified. We've heard through various sources that people want the rejection letter, right, to say that they've applied to be a NASA astronaut. So we typically see a fair chunk of applications for people that, right, may have a history degree and not a technical degree, but want to apply.
Yeah.
So that's our first kind of checkpoint. At that point, then we go through the qualified applications who have the right degrees and the right number of years of experience and start, whittling down from there. Ultimately, we end up inviting 120 individuals for the first round of interviews.
Okay. And they come here?
And yes, we bring them here and
Okay.
we interview them in person. And that's where they start doing some just initial medical testing as well. And then ultimately, after that round of interviews wraps up, we elected this time to bring 50 back for a second interview.
Okay.
And so it's out of that group of 50 that we selected the 12.
So from 50 down to 12. And is the second round of interviews a little bit more intensive? What do you do differently in the second round?
Well, yes, the interview, right, kind of follows a normal interview track, the interview with the Astronaut Selection Board. Certainly the intensity, I think, gets added in that's where we do more extensive medical testing, behavioral health testing, team reaction exercises, some individual performance exercises as well are kind of all wrapped into that second. They're here almost for a week, that second interview.
Wow. Okay. And then from there you have to narrow it down to 12.
And that's perhaps the hardest part.
I was just about to ask. Yeah, that sounds like it's got to be the hardest part because if you narrow down 18,000, obviously, you the folks that aren't qualified, that's a decent chunk, but you said it's the same percentage, right? So that still means you have a large number of people that are qualified to be astronauts, and you got to wean through them. But still, going down from 50 very, very, they're probably fantastic people. You have to get down to 12.
We did, and that honestly, that was very difficult for the board, and we met some amazing Americans throughout this process, and so they're, in the end, you're forced with a decision based on the needs of the office and kind of the mission profile. We kind of had settled on the number 12. So the consensus of the board, that's where it goes.
So, I mean, these 12 astronauts that we have in this class of 2017, in general, what did they do or say to sort of stand out from those 50?
That's in one ways that'd be an easy thing to answer and just say they did everything, right? They had everything we were looking for. They communicated effectively. In terms of the actual interviews with the board. You could get into specifics. And if you look at their skill set, right, they each brought more than one thing to the table based on their backgrounds and their experience and things of that nature. So.
Everyone had, they didn't just, like I said, they didn't just do one thing. They didn't have one degree. They had a degree, and then they did this other thing, and then also kind of dabbled in this on the side, or had a weird job over here. An ice driller for Rob, that's crazy, but it's part of being in a harsh environment, and I'm sure that's, part of the reason he got selected.
And, right, they all, and again, with the final 50, right, you're talking to some just amazing people, and they pursued careers and interests that they were passionate about. And when you like what you do already, it's easy to talk and communicate about that effectively and kind of see yourself transitioning into a new role.
Passion is absolutely key, and you can see it with the folks that are on orbit now, just how much they love being an astronaut and love being in space. I mean, personally, I could totally see myself there, but I would be one of those resumes you throw out right now.
And personally, I'm happy with my feet on the ground, so I'm good where I am.
So we selected 12 astronauts for 2017, and there's got to be a reason for that, right? We're gearing up for something. What is this class preparing for in the future?
Well, certainly I think the end goal is we hope that we're on a trajectory to someday send humans to Mars. I think that is where NASA as a whole kind of hopes we're heading. More immediately than that, though, we're certainly going to continue to fly to the International Space Station. We have 3 new vehicles that are hopefully coming online, as you've mentioned. I think the opportunities are limitless right now.
Yeah.
So whether this class ends up going to station for their first mission and somewhere beyond that for their second mission, that's yet to be seen. But certainly lots of options are on the table, which is exciting.
Yeah, I know a lot of the astronauts now in current classes, they're training for, you got a couple all over the place. So some of the astronauts coming up for space station expeditions are obviously studying a lot of the space station systems and training for that. But we also have a cadre of astronauts that are training for commercial crew vehicles.
Yeah.
Like Sonny Williams, Eric Bowe, those guys. They're training for the Boeing Starliner and the SpaceX Crew Dragon. I'm sure we're going to see these guys have to do it all, right? They're going to have to train for those space station, like you said, those space station missions. They're going to have to be super familiar with the commercial vehicles that we have, but then also be fully ready to go on a deep space mission with Orion.
Yeah.
They're going to have to do it all. And I wonder, some of the more recent classes, like the 2009 class, is they've been starting to fly recently, right? So Jack Fisher from the 2009 class is up there now, going back to when Reed Wiseman flew in 2013 or 14 or something. But it took him, somewhere between 5 and 10 years to get ready for the International Space Station. I can only imagine, for missions beyond. But
we have, I think, at least one or two of the 2013 class assigned. So that's right. It's becoming real for them as well.
Yeah, exactly. Becoming real. I love that. And so, just real quick before we let you go, what are they in for the? I guess right now when they come on board in August, they're going to be astronaut candidates, and they have 2 years of training to do before they're considered astronauts. What's that going to be like?
So it'll be just what you said, right? They'll be learning a lot from right now, again, with continuing to fly on board the International Space Station. Russian language is a component of of the training program. Learning how to do spacewalks, at least the fundamentals of it, and getting to dive in the neutral buoyancy laboratory, the big swimming pool. Learning the elements of robotics, to use the robotic arm on station. Yeah. And just basic International Space Station systems training. So all of those pieces, from a technical perspective, they'll gain at least the fundamentals in during this 2-year training window. I think another key piece of the training program now also comes from the fact that, given that astronauts are kind of often the spokespeople for NASA, they're out and about, people recognize the blue suits. Within that 2 years, we also familiarize them with all of the other exciting things that are happening at NASA and at all of the other centers. So we really want them to be well versed on what's going on at NASA as a whole, not just in the human spaceflight portfolio. So that's another important piece of their training as well, is getting out and getting to visit each of the 10 NASA field centers.
Very true. I'm very excited to hear their what they're going to be doing for the training and follow along on that journey as they go on. I know it's been a pleasure watching the 2013 astronauts, but also the 2009 astronauts too, because they're flying. So it's been quite a ride, and I can't wait for them to come on board. But I think that's about all the time we have. Thank you so much, Anne, for coming on. For the listeners, if you want to know more or you have a suggestion of what we should be talking about on this show, stay tuned till after the music to learn how to submit your ideas. Anne, thanks so much for coming on. It's been amazing, but it's also it's kind of cool to know the amount of effort it takes to find good people and bring them into the space program. And after meeting them and reading about their accomplishments, you can see why it's so important to do that. So we need the best and brightest for spaceflight. So thanks again, Anne Roemer, for both your work, but also coming on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Houston, go ahead. Roger, 0J, and I feel fine. Shuttle has cleared the tower. Became a stage for all mankind.
Actually, a huge honor to break a record like this.
Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Never Houston. Welcome to space.
Hey, thanks for sticking around. So today we talked with Anne Roemer about the new astronaut class of 2017. We went through all of the 12 astronauts, really, and just kind of skimmed the surface of all of their qualifications and what great people they are. If you want to know more, just go to nasa.gov/2017astronauts. That's right, we have a whole webpage dedicated to those astronauts and their biographies, what they've accomplished so far, and trust me, it is truly, truly amazing to go through that. If you want to follow along on social media, we'll be updating some of their training and as they come aboard here in the next few months. So if you go to Facebook, we have obviously the NASA account will be talking about this, but also the NASA Johnson Space Center as they come aboard here in Texas. On Twitter, that's at NASA if you want to look at the agency account, or at NASA_Johnson, that's us. On Instagram, you can also go to at NASA or at NASA Johnson. We'll be talking about all the same stuff. If you go and use the hashtag AskNASA on any one of those platforms, you can submit an idea, and we'll make sure to visit it in one of the later podcasts here. This podcast was recorded on June 14th, 2017. The Two Truths and a Lie segment was recorded on June 8th, 2017. And thanks to Alex Perryman, John Stoll, and Brandy Dean for helping out with this episode. Thanks again to Miss Anne Roemer for coming on the show. So once again, this show is intended to be weekly, and we will go answer some of your questions on Ask NASA soon, but we do have a bank of episodes that we're working on, so it may be a couple episodes until we get to that, but trust me, it'll be well worth it to submit some of your questions because we may make a whole episode out of answering them. So we'll see you next week.